Hey everybody, this is Rob, and today we're going to be unboxing an NES Classic Edition. Now, if you follow my channel at all, you may have noticed that earlier today I posted a PS4 Pro unboxing in air quotes, because it ended up being more of an overview, because I had a mishap with my camera, and that unboxing video footage was lost, or never recorded, if you want to think about it that way. But in any case, this is the second system in less than 24 hours that I'm unboxing. And strangely enough, I believe that this one, even though it's based on hardware that's over 30 years old, is actually the more popular of the two. Even though the PS4 Pro is the latest and greatest, the NES Classic Edition it's really been in the limelight lately. I think more so than the PS4 Pro. If you're trying to get one of these, if you're watching this video and then get the urge to go buy one, you're probably already out of luck. If you've got one on order, this is what you can expect when you finally get one. I came into possession with it's a funny story. So I came into possession of this particular one because of my friend Ricky. So if you have watched some earlier videos of mine, you will have noticed that there was one where we were playing some NES games. I believe it was Castlevania and maybe also Life Force. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was those two games. Anyway, we have played classic games together before, and so he comes out and hangs out. We'll play MAME or Street Fighter or, Atari or whatever, and new games too. But so he was over yesterday, and I was telling him about this NES Classic Edition that was coming out, and he seemed pretty disinterested in it. Why would I want that? I have ways to play that already. There's Virtual Console, there's emulation, there's Your House, meaning my house, because I own pretty much all of these games on actual cartridge, and I also own an EverDrive, so I own these games multiple ways. And so he's, very reasonably says, why would you want one? You have all these games already. And I don't know. My answer is because I just do. It's almost like a little statue. It's a little monument to the NES. And it also happens to play the game. So almost the playing the games part is almost secondary. This little guy is actually, it's this box, you can tell by the size of my hand, is pretty small. So this little guy is really small. It's modeled after the NES. It looks like a cute little statue, like a little tribute to the NES. But the interesting thing about it is that it has HDMI output, so it plays on modern displays. Now, of course, it's emulation. It's not actual NES hardware from back in the day. And it doesn't accept actual cartridges. And we'll get into all that a little bit. But so, I'm explaining to him that I really wanted, it's more like, it's nostalgia. And I also knew that it was going to be kind of hard to get. I've been following Amazon for a while and a few sites, and nobody seemed to be offering any pre-orders for this thing. And I wasn't sure if I had missed pre-orders and just was out of luck, or if they never opened them up. And it turns out that Amazon and GameStop never offered pre-orders. I know for sure GameStop didn't, but if Amazon offered them, I never saw them. I had signed up for an email letting me know a long time ago, asking them to let me know when I was able to order it. And I got an email a few days ago from Amazon saying that it was going to be available today. Actually, if I put this up soon enough, you may be able to order it online from Amazon today, depending on when you see this video, because it's supposed to go on sale at 2 p.m. Pacific time. I'm in Central Time, so that's 4 p.m. But in any case, they were very upfront saying that they had very limited stock, that you should have your updated information on file, your credit card, that they were going to disable one-click purchasing because they wanted, and putting a limit on how many you could get. I think it's just one, because this thing is going to be very hard to get. And I've been hearing that for weeks. So at this point, so Ricky had come over, and we were, at the end of our day, it's like, oh, I had picked him up, which I almost never do, but for whatever reason, I picked him up from his house to come hang out, and I was taking him back home, and it was just about midnight, and on a whim, I was like, would you mind if we stopped by Walmart? Maybe, for some reason, they would carry this thing. I'd looked on the Walmart website and found no indication that they were even carrying the NES Classic Edition. So I was not very confident that they were going to have it at all, much less have it at midnight. So we went into Walmart. It's a 24-hour Walmart, as most are, and moseyed on down to the electronics area. We didn't even like rush there or anything, and we did find somebody there. And I didn't even think that she was going to know what I was talking about. But as I was explaining that I was looking for an NES Classic Edition and it was supposed to be out later today, she said, "Oh yeah, we already sold out of those." And I'm like, "Really?" Because it was just after midnight. And she's like, "Yeah, when I came into work today, when my shift started around 10 p.m., there were already people lined up." And I'm like, "Holy crap! Well, how many did you get?" And she said 3. And I'm like, "Wonderful." And I'm like, "Well, how many people were lined up?" And she said like 6 maybe. And she's also been getting calls all night for it. So at that point, that really piqued Ricky's interest, because now, even though he had disparaged it shortly, just earlier in the evening, at this point he's like, "Oh, I can't have it? Now I really want it." So I wanted it the whole time. I knew I wanted it, and I knew it was going to be a pain in the ass to get. But so we go on this, a very, very short scavenger hunt. It amounts to basically us calling a whole bunch of Walmarts in the middle of the night, just after midnight, and all of them answer, if they do answer at all. The ones that do answer say no, that they sold out, that they sold out, that they sold out. Everything was sold out right after midnight. So we're kind of bummed. So we go online, try to find some place that was selling it online, and nothing. Best Buy wasn't offering any. Had to show up. Even GameStop, that's when we found out, didn't take pre-orders, but they were going to have limited numbers in store, and they were supposedly going to open up online orders sometime during the evening. So while I was there, we looked at some websites and whatever, and I eventually thought, the GameStop website was getting hammered, so I knew that was not a good sign. It was just failing to load, and I got to the point where I could hit add to cart for the NES Classic Edition, and they had bundles, so you can just buy the basic NES Classic Edition, or one that came with an additional controller, or one that came with the guide that also released the same day, and one that came with like a backpack carrying case. So they were trying to sell you, multiple things, and I'm like, you know what, I don't even care. I really did want an extra controller, so I kept trying to add the one with the extra controller and the guide, which is my Prima Games, and I know they make guides, but it almost looked like a coffee table book. I think it's hardcover, and it had lots of photos and backstory, and more than just strategy, for not all 30 NES games, but I think 17 or a good number of them. So I thought, that's pretty cool. I kind of want that. And so I kept trying to add it to cart, and it was failing and failing. And I finally said, Ricky, it's getting late. I got to go home. And right as I was heading home, don't ever do this, but I was still in this neighborhood, and I was just hitting with my thumb refresh on adding to, I was kept hitting checkout, because it was already in my cart, and it let it go through, and I already had a credit card on file, so I just a couple of thumb presses later, and it actually placed an order for me. So I was pretty happy about that. And I called up Ricky and said, "Hey man, the GameStop app let me order the NES Classic Edition, give it a shot." And he was like, "Yeah, okay." And then I didn't hear from him. So this morning I had to go to a school function for my kids, my elementary school kids. It's Veterans Day, so they were doing this whole Veterans Day thing, and so we went to the school function in the morning, and spent an hour or so there. And during that time frame, I get a message from Ricky that he's at a Target. He's now hellbent on getting one of these things, even though just 12 hours before he had no interest in it, which is pretty funny. That's how humans work, right? When you can't have something, you really want it. So he was at Target like at 7:30 in the morning. He said that he had gotten to Target, and there was a lady that was walking up to get into line right as he was, and she barely beat him into the line. He didn't think anything of it, except for when they went to hand out tickets, the last ticket went to the lady right in front of him. So he was pretty bummed, but somebody in the line took pity on him and said, "Hey, you know what? There's a Target just down the way that has only 8 people in line, and it's supposed to have like 21 units. So why don't you try that Target?" So Ricky went over there, and lo and behold, he was number 19 of 21, and he picked up this sucker here. And he was a good guy, really. Props to him, because he offered it to me. He said, "Here, you can have this one that I picked up this morning. I know you really wanted one, and the one that you're getting from GameStop, just go ahead and give me that one when it comes in." So that my friends, is how we ended up with this on launch day. Now, if you look on Craigslist today, if you're watching this on Veterans Day or even this weekend after, you'll probably notice that on Craigslist and on eBay, the prices for this thing are sky high right now. Anywhere from double, which would be $120, this retails for $59.99, all the way up to $300. I've seen some posted for $600, which are ludicrous, and they're probably not going to get the asking price. But still, that just goes to show you how much this is in demand, which is pretty crazy because all this is an emulated NES. Now, the interesting is it's not just licensed by Nintendo. It's actually it's developed by Nintendo. This is a Nintendo product. It is not licensed out to AtGames, which has been making these flashback consoles. I'm sure that if you've been in a Target or anywhere near a video game section of a department store, even Kohl's has them, Toys R Us has them, you'll see these flashback games. They have Atari flashback, multiple versions of that. They have Intellivision flashback, and they have ColecoVision flashback. I even made a video of that if you want to check that out. And they also made a classic Genesis console. They didn't call it a flashback, but it's a tiny little Genesis, much in the same vein as this, although this is meant to look like the original, at least the North American version of it. The AtGames, that's AT Games, that's the name of the company that makes these retro flashback consoles. The AtGames version of the Sega Genesis actually allows it to play cartridge games from the Genesis and even has cartridge controller ports, even though it comes with 2 wireless controllers. Now that thing retails for, I think, $70, and they released one of those, like, boy, years ago. They had this thing, but it didn't make a big fuss. Like, nobody made a big fuss about it. It was kind of, like, oh, cool. But this year, due to all the furor on around the NES Classic Edition, they're re-releasing it, and I think it's going to do pretty well, the Genesis version. But anyway, that one is not released by Sega, and it doesn't look anything like the original Sega Genesis, although there's a company in Brazil, I think, that's making one that looks like the Sega Genesis now. So this is a thing, bringing back old consoles. This retro movement is got, it's been building up momentum for a long time now, which kind of sucks because I was, it sounds like I'm going to sound like a gaming collecting hipster, but I was collecting games when everybody else was throwing them out. Literally throwing them out. People were giving me boxes of NES games, boxes of Atari 2600 stuff, and now it's crazy because everybody's paying exorbitant amount of money for them. But so yeah, all those days for me of just being able to walk into pawn shops and picking up stuff for 50 cents or $1, those days are gone. I can't even find retro stuff anymore. But the big companies, they're noticing, right? Not just those third-party Chinese knockoff places or businesses, but the actual company. I mean, this is Nintendo themselves. They're realizing the value of their old games. And so now you get stuff like the NES Classic Edition, and because the NES is really, I mean, it's very special in the lives of a lot of American gamers and probably European and Japanese too. It just holds much more weight than a retro ColecoVision or a retro Intellivision or even a retro Genesis, to be honest. And I love the Genesis, but it just doesn't have the weight of an NES. So I've been talking a lot about this, and let's go ahead and look at the box and start to make our way towards an unboxing of sorts, right? So you've been looking at this for a while now. I'm sure you've noticed that it's got 30 games, and it's got a sampling of games here: Super Mario Brothers, Metroid, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Zelda, and Kirby's Adventure. Kirby's Adventure is one of the later releases. Zelda, of course, is one of the best. And I don't know, Pac-Man and Donkey Kong, I never really thought of those as NES games. To me, those are arcade games. I guess they have decent ports for the NES, but that really wasn't my thing. If I'm going to play Donkey Kong or Pac-Man, I'm going to play the arcade versions. Metroid I never really was into, and of course Super Mario Brothers. That was the game that really brought everybody around to. It was basically the rebirth of home console was due to Super Mario Brothers. So it's kind of a cool little packaging. It's got so I believe that the North American version is also the same version they're selling in the PAL European areas. So that's probably why you see, and probably sold in Canada too, why you see Spanish and French on the front cover there. So classics, okay, I haven't actually looked at this. Let's take a gander here. NES Classic controller. So I should mention that it comes with a full-sized NES Classic controller made to look almost exactly like the old school NES controllers. The only real difference is that the connector type is different. Instead of being a standard NES connector, it has this, if you look at it closely and you own a Wii or a Wii U, you'll notice that it's the same kind of connector that is on the back of a Wiimote that allows you to connect additional controllers. So like a Pro controller or something like that. So this controller can actually be hooked up to a Wiimote for either the Wii or the Wii U to allow you to play virtual console classic games. So if you have downloaded NES games to your Wii or Wii U, you can actually use this controller and plug it right into the Wiimote, and you'll be able to play it a little bit more authentically, although the emulation for the Wii and Wii U is not very good. I've been hearing really good things about the emulation for this, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But anyway, so it comes with the NES Classic controller. So play classic NES games that were meant to be played on a full-size original, in not air quotes but printed quotes, double quotes, NES controller. Just plug it in and you're ready to go. Includes all of the original features plus the control pad for quick control and movement, A and B buttons for rapid fire action, and select and start for menu selection and pausing the game. That's that is really like 80s speak right there. Like, wow, it has all these cool features like buttons. Yeah, buttons for rapid fire action. What do we got on this side? Okay, so then it's console. You can kind of get an idea of how big this thing is or how small it is based on a little picture there. NES console. It's a retro blast from the past with the return of the all-time fan favorite and Nintendo Entertainment System. This mini-sized NES Classic Edition system is packed with 30 pre-installed classic Nintendo Entertainment System games from the 80s. Fully loaded and ready to play using the original style NES Classic controller. I believe that Kirby's Adventure is actually from the early 90s, but whatever, being nitpicky. So retro blast from the past. Got so let's go over I'll go over the titles real quick, although you probably have seen this already. It might be too hard to read from the camera, but we have Balloon Fight, Bubble Bobble, Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, Donkey Kong Jr., Double Dragon 2, The Revenge, Dr. Mario, Excite Bike, Final Fantasy. And I should mention that between the Japanese release that has a mini Famicom and the American and European releases, which has this version, there are 22 games that are common, and then 8 games that are distinct to the different territories. So these, like that one made me think about is Final Fantasy, you would think would be in the Japanese one too, but it's actually not. It's only on the American release. The Japanese one actually has the cooler Final Fantasy 3, which I would have preferred on the American one because it never actually came out here. But because it didn't really retranslate or do any more work other than put ROMs on here, I can understand why Final Fantasy 3 wasn't put on here, because it never came out here in the first place. So let's go on. Galaga, Ghosts and Goblins, Gradius, Ice Climber Kid Icarus, Kirby's Adventure, Mario Brothers, Mega Man 2, Metroid, Ninja Gaiden, Pac-Man, Punch-Out featuring Mr. Dream. That's a shame. I know they can't do the Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, but I will forever reject the Mr. Dream version of Punch-Out, because to me it's always going to be Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Continuing on with number 23, Star Tropics, Super C, Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers 3, and you have to have, that's the holy trinity of the NES. Tecmo Bowl, which is as you would expect, is a American exclusive, or a European / North American exclusive. The Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link, also 2 classic and can't miss NES games. So that's a pretty good list. You'll notice that there aren't very many third-party ones. There are some. There's some from Tecmo. There's some from Capcom and Konami as well. But there are some things that it's not going to please everybody. There are 30 games. There's a huge library of games for the NES. I mean, you don't have like Ninja Turtles. You don't have Master Blaster. It doesn't even have Tetris, which is kind of weird. But it's still a pretty good. There's some things I wouldn't put on here, like Balloon Fight. They're really pushing Balloon Fight for some reason. I have no idea why. I never knew anybody who was into Balloon Fight, which is just a shitty joust, right? I don't know. There's some of these things I wouldn't put. I wouldn't put in either Donkey Kong or Donkey Kong Jr. Those are arcade games to me. What else would I would have taken out? I don't know. I guess they're pretty good. Probably put the original Contra instead of Super C. Definitely would have preferred Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, but I understand why they couldn't. Pac-Man's another would have taken out just because, again, it's an arcade game to me. But, overall, I think that's a pretty strong list of games. What else we have? So down here, I covered up the serial number just in case somebody tries to get sneaky. Yeah, nothing really here. You will notice that it has an HDMI logo. So one thing that this has over those games, flashback consoles, as this actually outputs to HDMI. Those at games consoles, those flashback consoles, output via RCA, and it is a huge difference. A lot of displays, the 16:9 flat panel LED displays, don't handle RCA connections really well because that's to upscale them, and it takes time to do that. So you introduce a lot of lag when you hook up RCA retro game systems into newer flat panel displays. Because this outputs natively in HDMI, you won't have that kind of lag. Also, this thing has the ability to do save states, and also has the ability to do scan lines, which I think are very, very important in enjoying old games, because old games were designed to be played on old CRT television, had scan lines. Scan lines are, if you look closely at a TV, you'll see these black or dark lines every other line on your television. Those are scan lines, and they aren't present on LED or OLED or any kind of new flat panel displays, plasmas even. So it looks weird. It doesn't have those black lines to kind of break up the graphics, and because they were designed to look that way, it softens them up and makes them look normal, like natural, like the way they were supposed to look. That's the way they were designed, with those scan lines in mind. So this has the ability to enable the scan lines if you so desire, and I do, and also gives you the ability to change how the display is, and we'll go over that when we do when I plug it in and do a little video of that. But it will allow you to change the aspect ratio, whether you want it stretched to the full 16:9, whether you want to do a perfect square, or whether you want to do more of the traditional 4:3 format, which is what I would prefer. That's what most people were used to playing it on. So anyway, it's good to have all those different options. So let's go ahead and get this sucker open. We're like 45 minutes in or something like that. Okay, so it looks like this is a good place to start. So that's cool. It has no tape here. I'm a stickler for good boxes, and there we go. So that's kind of cool. So now you're playing with power. I like to keep my boxes in pristine condition as much as I can anyway. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Nintendo Entertainment System, so it has pictures of the game packs on there. And here is the controller. I have to say, it feels pretty genuine. I mean, it is Nintendo, but they have to go back and make something they haven't made in over 30 years, right? Maybe it hasn't been 30 years. They might have been producing these a little bit or sooner since then, because I think they stopped NES production quite a bit after the early 90s. So, and then you see there's the different connectors, so that'll connect to your remote. So it feels pretty good. I like it. Here is the charger. So you'll see it's a standard USB charging block. So this actually runs on USB power. I don't know if it'll be enough to run it off of a USB slot on your television, but my guess is it probably will. The thing is that, well, let's go ahead and look at the console itself. Look how tiny this thing is. Oh my goodness. It's tiny. And of course the door doesn't move, and this button's a little janky. Feels weird, but this pushes in just like I remember. And it's got HDMI out, and it looks like a mini USB DC in. Is that what it says? Yeah, USB DC in. Weird, it has the HDMI logo right there. So yeah, that's about it for the outputs. It's got the 2 controller ports and an HDMI port, and that is it. Of course, it's not going to play your original NES cartridges. It's not even big enough. In fact, I have some NES cartridges here. Here's the Super Mario Duck Hunt that many of you might remember. And look, it's actually the cartridge is bigger than the system itself. It's pretty tiny. It weighs like nothing. They make these things called Raspberry Pis. They're basically little tiny mini computers that people often turn them into emulation machines for old consoles. So it's like Raspberry Pis are tiny. I mean, this thing's probably way bigger than it even needs to be, which is pretty crazy that we're able to do that. Not that the NES was super powerful even for the time, but that you can get it that small. So it's kind of cool that it comes with a HDMI cable. Not that we need them. I mean, HDMI cables are ubiquitous nowadays, but pretty cool that it actually came with one. And then here's the charging cable, and it appears to be a standard micro USB charging cable. Yeah, it's just on my, so it looks like the same thing comes with the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One controller. So neat, you know, if you lose it, that's cool. I like that they didn't go with a proprietary adapter, because, you know, if you're stuck someplace or maybe you want to take it around with you, shoot, if you have your phone, if your phone charger with you, you have a power supply for this thing. So that's really cool. Put this off to the side. Get these boxes out of the way. And I want to take a look at this thing. I want to see if there's anything interesting in here. I'll put this for you to see here. Hopefully that's in frame. So what's this here? Oh, it's got a code. Don't look at my code. My Nintendo, redeem these points for fun rewards. Okay, cool. Alright, so if that ends up being on the video, if that showed in the video, I probably just cut to this part. So there was a code in there. If that video got, part of it got cut out. So there was a code in there if that part of the video got cut out. Anyway, moving on. Wow, a poster. Neat. So setup instructions, it's pretty straightforward, I'm sure. Let's take a look at this poster. I'm doubting this will get, oh wow. This probably won't fit in the full frame, but we can get most of it in there, I think. This out of the way. So it's got the robot, Rob the Robot, which is named after me. Just kidding, it's Robotic Operating Bunny. This is the little guy that got the NES into stores, because with this little guy, they snuck this into toy stores as a toy. Look, it's got shooting, you know, mechanics. It's got this cool little toy robot. It's not a video game system. It's not like the Atari. You know, we know that Atari and the video game business left a bad taste in your mouth, retailers, but this isn't a video game. This is an entertainment system. See, you put in cartridges just like you would VHS tapes. They're front loading, and you push it down, and you have a robot that comes with it, and you know, these two fancy controllers that, you know, they're not joysticks, they're directional pads, right? These aren't cartridges or game packs, right? So that's how they were able to get, and this is a beautiful old CRT. This is what I'm talking about. This is what we need to play it on. But yeah, now you're playing with power since 1985. So it actually came out as the Famicom in 1983, and it was only limited release in 1985. It was like New York City and the surrounding area. It didn't go nationwide until the next year, and it didn't go big until probably the year after that. But yeah, that was Rob the Robot. Big part in getting the gaming industry, the home console industry, restarted in America. So let's make some comparisons here, size and function, to some of the original hardware. So again, here is the NES Mini, or the NES Classic Edition. And here is, grab it, screen. That is the original. So you can kind of see here, you can get a good size difference. It is tiny, tiny, tiny. But you can see how faithful they recreated I mean, how faithful the design is. It's pretty close. So this is the original toaster NES, and it's got an EverDrive in it, but of course you put in a cartridge and you would snap this down, or push it down for you to play your games. And then after a while, in the early 90s, after the Super Nintendo was already out, they released this thing. I apologize, it's a little dirty. I try to clean it up, but some of that dirt's really caked in here. I really have to take it apart and give it a good washing to get it nice and clean. But this is an NES 101. It's the redesigned NES that came out again after the Super Nintendo was already out, and I think this was released for 50 bucks. And the cool part about this thing is that it was a top loader, and it got rid of that whole toaster mechanic from this thing, and it was a lot more reliable because the pins would bend on this eventually, and after a while you would run into a problem where you put in a cartridge and it wouldn't load, and that's where you get the whole blowing on the cartridge, it's dirty, etc. But really it was just bent pins, and to avoid that problem they just went this route where it was top loaded, so that was really cool. What was really bad about this version is it only had RF out for some reason, which is really weird because in Japan they also redesigned the Famicom exactly like this, except for it had AV out. So in Japan, the original Famicom only had RF out. And in America, our version of the Famicom had RF out, which is radio frequency, right? There it is right there. And also had AV out, even though that's a weird color. Audio should have been white. I don't know why it's red. It's always been weird to me. But so it had RCA, composite out, and RF out, which is really cool. In Japan, their Famicom, they were stuck with RF. So when they redesigned it with this, their redesigned Famicom was called an AV Famicom because they added what we had for the whole time, which was those RCA outputs for composite video. And so they added it to their miniaturized Famicom and called it the Famicom AV. And in our side of the pond, they reversed it. Where we used to have the RCA out, they took it out. So they took it out and left us with only RF. I don't know why they did that. I mean, they were already manufacturing Famcoms with AV. They went out of their way to redesign it without the AV output. You can modify these to do AV out or super video out or even RGB out. I actually have another one of these toaster styles with an RGB mod in it, and it looks absolutely fantastic. But yeah, the other cool thing about this is it came with, so let me show you, which you've probably seen 100 times, but here is the original NES controller, and I'll show you as the original controller style port. Right, just goes right in here or right in there. And here is the redesigned one. This is for the NES Classic, and man, they are super close. Other than this feeling, you know, tighter because this is old and loose. I prefer this feel actually. They feel really close. Now that's not such a surprise. There have been knockoff NES controllers, especially with USB ends, to be, you know, for being used for emulators on PCs. They've been around a long time and they feel pretty good too. They just don't say Nintendo on them. But you know, the dimensions are right. Where the controller is right. This controller is a little thinner than the original one, but in all other respects, it's pretty dang close. So this one says made in Japan. This one says made in China. So you can guess which one's the new one, right? The one made in China. So there are those, and then what I was saying is this one actually came with something that's commonly and colloquially known as the dog bone controller, which is this little guy, and it looks like a dog bone, hence the name. It's not officially called the dog bone controller, I don't think, but that's what everybody calls it. And this is also, you know, got the standard port connector there. The nice thing about this is it has rounded edges. This came out after the Super Nintendo, so it's got kind of a little angle. It's more ergonomic. It's got a little angle to the buttons. The control pad still feels really good, and it's got these rounded edges, which just makes it a lot more comfortable than these square edges. This is actually very sought after by both collectors and gamers because, again, it's more comfortable, it's very reliable, and it's very rare. So these controllers are, you know, not super expensive, but they're definitely going to cost you. These may cost you, I don't know, $5, maybe 10 on the high end if you have a really good condition one. But these are going to cost you like 25 or 30 bucks, probably at a minimum. And new ones would cost you even more. So yeah, really cool. It's a shame that they didn't release dog bone controller updates for this. I think that there's a third-party company that might be doing that. I know there's a third-party company doing the NES Advantage, the joystick version for this thing. So look for that soon. But yeah, pretty crazy, huh? Look how just crazy small that is compared to the other two. Anyway, I thought this one was small back in the day. So, okay, so that is the NES Classic Edition, and we will hook this up, and I'll probably just do it in a separate video so I can get this video up sooner. I don't have time to play the games right now, but I will get some video up of the menu system and how the quick saves work, and kind of give you a little rundown of what I think about the emulation and how the scan lines look and feel compared to CRTs, because I'll be honest, I am a CRT snob. So if it's a little off, I'm going to feel it and complain about it. But in any case, look out for that video. It should be out pretty close, if not later on today, then probably sometime this weekend. But hopefully you get this in time that you're able to get a hold of these before they completely disappear off the shelves. I think it's going to be really, really hard to find these before Christmas if you don't get one this weekend. All right, thanks for watching. Again, if you have any comments or questions, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below, or contact me on Twitter or on Facebook. I'm there with the same name, Rob Nava. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.